Our City Council regular meeting, August 15, 2023, to order. The invocation will be given by Councilperson Kirchner.
Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. Help us to use good judgment for the business at hand and guide us in wisdom with a continuing sense of truth and fairness for the community we represent.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Here.
Mr. Krieger.
Here.
Mr. Marne.
Here.
Mr. Blake.
Here.
Mr. Donovan.
Here.
Mrs. Dowling. Here. Mr. Freeman.
Here.
Council, you're in your seat of the July 5th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Abstain.
You said yes.
Mr. Marne?
Abstain.
Oh, abstain.
But he should have abstained.
You got abstain.
Oh, abstain.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking about me.
Mr. Marne.
Abstain, sorry.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Public hearings, we have none. Tabled legislation, we have none. New legislation. Ordinance number 23-0-058.
An ordinance to authorize advances of funds and revisions to appropriations and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Members of council, this ordinance authorizes two main items. Firstly, a permanent cash transfer, a temporary cash advance out of the city's general fund to move the cash necessary for three capital project funds resurfacing projects that you previously approved at the last council meeting. And then Section 2 incorporates numerous appropriation revisions. Several were voted on at the previous meeting with 5 votes. We want to recommend the approval with a majority of 6 votes. In addition to those items, we did add about $300,000 to $400,000 for repair and maintenance and remodeling projects throughout the city, as noted in the staff report. And these are predominantly coming from the general fund also. I would recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-058 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-059.
An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a Mentor Economic Development Grant with Burgess and Nyepel, Inc.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Burgess and Nyepel, you may be aware of them. They've obviously done some work for the city before. They are a nationally recognized engineering and architectural firm. They are currently based in Paynesville, and they'll be moving their offices to Norton Parkway. Along that, they're doing a build-out of 10,000 square feet of the newly built Newell Creek Professional Center, which is that new building kind of in the center of Norton Parkway. The capital investment build-out is $2.0 million. The project's going to bring 27 new employees to the city of Mentor by the end of this year, which is equitable to $3.5 million in new payroll, and then they're expecting to add 5 more employees to their payroll by the end of 2024. The Economic Development Department's recommending an ED grant in the amount of $10,000.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Great work. Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-059 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-060. 060.
An ordinance accepting the bid of Ohio Paving and Construction Company, Inc., DBA Ohio Paving, and awarding the contract for a parking lot and bike path resurfacing project, authorizing the city manager to execute all contract documents on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Mr. Schweiker, please.
Thank you. Bids were open on July 28th for the resurfacing of the asphalt parking lot in front of the Court and Police Department, along with the asphalt multi-use path that runs in front of Mentor High School. This work will include the removal of the top 1.5 inches of the existing asphalt and replacing it with a like amount of new asphalt. 5 companies bid on this project, with the overall low bid being submitted by the Ohio Paving and Construction Company with a price of $109,605. Ohio Paving has successfully performed similar work in the past, and I recommend entering into a contract with them for this project.
Thank you, Mr. Swiker. Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-060 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-061.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. for the preparation of a housing study and needs analysis for the city of Mentor and declaring an emergency.
Flippia. Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Mitchell, please.
Thank you. Members of council, in the spring of 2023, the city posted a request for qualifications for a housing study and needs analysis to be prepared for the city that will evaluate the city's housing market and identify gaps in our existing housing stock. We received 11 responses from qualified firms all over the country. The proposals were evaluated based on their years of experience, expertise of the project team, proposed project approach and scope of work, and cost and schedule. A handful of firms were then selected to participate in a phone interview to further discuss their understanding of the project, data sources used, technical backgrounds, and team organizations. Of the firms interviewed, Stantec Consulting Services stood out with their recommended approach and understanding of the project, which includes stakeholder interviews, resident surveys to gauge community preferences, a socioeconomic profile of the community, and an in-depth look of housing market conditions, policies, and zoning. Much of their analysis is derived from extensive data sources that will analyze community interests, workforce needs, regional demands, and housing demands, while also measuring current housing supply. This information will be inventoried and charted, allowing the team to then formulate housing strategies and create an action plan for future implementation. I'm recommending that the city enter into a contract with Stantec Consulting Services to prepare this important housing study.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Counsel?
Move to
President,
Oh, Ms.
just a
Dowling.
quick question. Do we have any idea of a time frame on how long this will take when we can, I know everyone's waiting for this anxiously, so
An estimated eight-month timeline.
8 months.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-061 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-062.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to submit construction engineering services documents to the Ohio Department of Transportation and enter into a construction engineering services agreement with Quality Control Inspection, Inc. for the Lake Heisley Road resurfacing project PID 111566 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Swigger, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. As a condition of utilizing federal funding for the Lake Heisley Road resurfacing project, the city was required to follow a qualification-based selection process, QBS, to select a consultant for construction engineering services. This involved advertising on the Ohio Department of Transportation website for these services. In doing so, the city received 2 responses from consultants for construction management services by the July 5th deadline. Based upon the consultant selection rating form provided by ODOT, the city ranked the consultants in the order listed. First, Quality Control Inspection, and then second, Greenman Peterson Incorporated. The ranking took into account the firm's project manager, the strength and experience of the assigned staff, the firm's current workload, the consultant's past performance, and the project approach. Therefore, it's recommended that the City Council authorize the city manager to enter into a construction engineering services agreement with Quality Control Inspection Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $127,964.70. Upon approval, the legislation, the Quality Control Inspection scope document, the fee estimate, the signed agreement will all be forwarded to ODOT's Office of Consultant Services for final approval. And it's recommended that this be approved to meet the current project schedule. Construction is scheduled to begin in September. Thank you.
Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-062 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-063.
An ordinance accepting the bid of JTO Inc. and awarding to it the contract for the Edge Hill Boulevard culvert replacement and Lakeshore Boulevard storm sewer improvement project and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Swigger, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. Bids are opened on Friday, June 30th for the Chillicothe Fairlawn Storm Sewer Improvement Project. Project will remove and replace approximately 530 feet of undersized 24-inch storm sewer and culvert along and under Fairlawn Drive and Chillicothe Road. It will be replaced with a new 36-inch storm sewer. The bid package consisted of base bid and no alternates. The 4 bids received range from a low bid of approximately $214,000 to a high bid of approximately $243,000. It's been determined that Shivers Construction Company Incorporated of Fairview, Pennsylvania, submitted the lowest total bid of $214,371.00. The engineer's opinion of probable construction cost was $275,000. Project's been awarded $167,500 in state funding through the Ohio Public Works Commission to cover up to 50% of the project costs. A review of the bid from Shivers Construction Company Incorporated indicates that it's in conformance with all contract requirements. Therefore, recommend that a contract be awarded to Shivers Construction Company. They're qualified to perform this work in the amount of $214,371, and the scheduled completion date for the project is November 30th of 2023.
Counsel, we're on, that was the wrong ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're all
It's
right. Don't,
okay.
don't,
It's
fine.
okay.
We'll go to that one.
Hold on.
Go ahead, just fix it.
So ordinance, that was ordinance number
Read
23.
64.
Yeah, that was ordinance number 23-0-064, so we'll have Julie read that and vote on it.
An ordinance accepting the bid of, I forgot how they pronounced it, Shivers Construction Company, Inc., and awarding to it the contract for the Chillicothe Fairlawn Storm Sewer Improvement Project and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-064 is approved, and we'll go back to ordinance number 23-0-063. Mr. Flippia.
Yeah, Mr. Swigger, please.
I believe this is.
At least you're smiling, Dave.
I wish I had an agenda with me. That would be perfect. If this is the Edge Hill Road Culvert Replacement Project, I'll read the staff report. Bids were opened on Friday, June 30th of 2023 for the Edge Hill Road Culvert Replacement and Lakeshore Boulevard Storm Sewer Improvement Project. The first half of the project will consist of removing and replacing approximately 90 linear feet of 42-inch corrugated metal pipe culvert between 8812 and 8819 Edge Hill Road, and replace it with a new 42-inch diameter culvert pipe. The second half of the project takes place along Lakeshore Boulevard between Green Oak Avenue and Dearborn Avenue, and it will remove approximately 640-inch of 6, 8, and 12-inch road drainage storm pipe and replace it with all-new 12-inch storm sewer pipe. The bid package consisted of a base bid and no alternates. The 4 bids received range from a low bid of $228,451 to a high bid of $279,435. It's determined that JTO Incorporated of Mentor, Ohio submitted the lowest and best bid of $228,451. The engineer's opinion of probable construction costs was $231,000, and the project has been awarded $100,000 in state funding through the Ohio Public Works Commission to cover about 32% of the project cost. The scheduled final completion date for the project is November 30th of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swigger. Counsel?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Blake.
Before we move on with this, is there going to be any clean out of that culvert, like heading north from where this project is going to go? Because I was up there a couple weeks ago, the neighbors were complaining about the condition of that culvert, but talking to them, one of them was trying to do some sort of mitigation on erosion and putting tree stumps in there, which wasn't working real well. And so they were complaining about what they had done there, so
We can surely review that condition.
I kind of worry that we're going to go through all this, and because there's all that material that's basically dumped in there, it wouldn't make a difference. It'd still flood out. So maybe if somebody could take a
We'll
look
inspect
at that
that.
and
Yes,
make
we
sure
will.
it's ready to free flow once this is done, would be great.
We'll do so, yes.
Thank you.
Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-063 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-065.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a software as a service agreement with Tyler Technologies, Inc. for financial and human resources services and software and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Sand, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filpiak and member of council. The Tyler Technologies Munis ERP system is utilized mainly by the city finance, payroll, HR, and other citywide departments. Munis ERP system 7 years term ended June 30th. After intense negotiation, we were able to secure the renewal of the amendment for 3 additional years. Annual SaaS fees for the 2 and the 3 year are subject to a 5% cap on increases. The annual maintenance costs were decreased by 19%, $19,292 per year off the original invoice cost for $146,000 by eliminating 4 modules. After further negotiations, the cost of the new contracts has been reduced by additional 6% to $119,426. The 2 reduction combined for an overall minimum savings of $27,000 over each year of the 3-year contract. I'm recommending the 3-year SaaS agreement covering the period of July of this year through the June 30, 2026.
Thank you, Ali. Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-065 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-066.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Dell Inc. for a 3-year Microsoft Enterprise Volume Licensing Agreement under the State of Ohio Cooperative Purchasing Program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, Mr. Sand.
Mr. Filpiak and member of council. Microsoft Enterprise Agreement is a volume perpetual licensing program that enables organizations with flexible to purchase software licensing and upgrades under one agreement. This program includes software assurance and Microsoft Enhanced Maintenance packages. Software subscription provides the highest level of security along with disaster recovery of our email system. Also provide free software upgrades, features of the functionality. The following additional items will be added into our renewal contract, resulting in saving over a 3-year term. Microsoft SQL Server database, Microsoft Windows operating system licensing, and Microsoft E3 licensing. So to prevent any disconnection or data loss, I recommend renewing the contract with Dell Inc. for the Microsoft Enterprise Agreement licensing subscription in the amount of $510,000 and $316, which is under the Ohio State term schedule.
Council, that's, if I could just add to that, that's for the entirety of the 3 years. So that's 3 years in totality.
Total.
And allows up to as many as 500 users.
Counsel?
Move to suspend.
Second. Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-066 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-067.
An ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of streets hereinafter mentioned with the termini designated by supplying such streets with electric street lighting and declaring an emergency.
Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Malinowski?
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. This ordinance, as well as the subsequent ordinance, are the next two and second and third step in the street lighting process. Upon approval of both of these ordinances, we would certify the entire cost of street lighting to the county auditor within 30 days. I would recommend approval. Thank you.
Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
No.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-067 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-068.
An ordinance to levy assessments for the improvement of various streets in the city of Mentor by supplying said streets with electric street lighting and declaring an emergency.
Council?
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
No.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-068 is approved. Ordinance number 23-0-069. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
And-
Went off for a jog.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with the Zerby Construction LLC for the construction and repair of the ice arena and declaring an emergency.
Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think, members of council, we've spoke about this at a work session in the past. We have some significant deterioration located on primarily the south wall of the ice arena, as well as a portion of that same side at the community center. We received a bid, which is essentially a time and material quote from Zerby Construction. They were the only company to bid this work. It would, the work would involve removing the existing vinyl siding, replacing the damaged substrate, replacing that with new OSB wall sheeting, and wrapping that, which is part of the problem. And back when the ice arena was built, the building codes did not require what we would think of as tie-back protective sheathing behind the vinyl siding. And so a lot of that has rotted away. And in installation of flashing and coping, so we ask for council's approval.
Council. Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger.
Yes.
Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirschner.
Yes.
Mr. Krieger. Mr. Marne.
Yes.
Mr. Blake.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes.
Ordinance number 23-0-069 is approved. We have a resolution number 23-R-111.
A resolution declaring the necessity of repairing and reconstructing certain sidewalks in zones 1D and 1E associated with the 2023 pedestrian safety program in the city of Mentor, requiring that abutting property owners repair same, ratifying and confirming notices, authorizing repair or reconstruction of said sidewalks by the city engineer in certain cases, providing for assessment of cost, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Flippia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Swigger, please.
Thank you, Mr. Filipiak. In May and June of this year, the city completed sidewalk inspections in Zone 1D and 1E of Ward 1, and that's the area roughly between Mentor Avenue, State Route 84, the Concord Township line, and Little Mountain Road. Locations of properties with deficient sidewalk have been identified in Exhibit A in the legislation. A total of 643 out of 805 parcels were found to have deficient sidewalk. 2,322 sidewalk slabs were found to have deficiencies requiring repair or new construction. Of this total, the city will be replacing 713 slabs adjacent to existing street trees, 144 slabs related to manhole, utility main or storm main issues, 50 slabs related to ADA ramp lowering. Additionally, the city will be reconstructing 104 handicap ramps at the intersections. Homeowners will be responsible for the remainder, 1,415 slabs to be repaired or replaced. This legislation is a resolution of necessity which declares that it is necessary to repair the sidewalk deficiencies identified in Exhibit A in accordance with Section 729 of the Ohio Revised Code and Section 913 of the Mentor Municipal Code. Upon council approval of this resolution, property owners will be notified and provided 45 days to make the repairs. Repairs not made within 45-day time period will then be made by the city's sidewalk contractor, with costs being assessed back to the property owners. Thank you.
Council.
Move to suspend.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake? Yes. Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Julie, please call the roll.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Resolution number 23-R-111 is adopted. Second readings, we have none. Third readings, we have none. Managers report.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. Council City Festive, you're aware, is this weekend on Friday and Saturday. The parade will step off at 10 a.m. from Shore Middle School. We're excited about the events planned for the weekend. There are only 2 farmers markets left on Friday, August 18th and the 25th of this month at Garfield Park from 2 to 6 p.m. The fall tree planting program will be starting soon. Residents who are interested in a tree within their tree lawn should contact the Public Works Department at 440-974-5781. And we remind our residents that there is no charge for these trees if we can accommodate the request. Residents and businesses along Hopkins Road are advised that Dominion Gas has been performing gas pressure hydro testing between the Mentor Dog Park and Terrace Park Drive. Work began on the lines on Hopkins Road, and these areas may experience a gas smell as the pipes are bled. The smell should not last for more than a few hours, and the Mentor Fire Department is monitoring the process. Residents are advised to not call 911 unless they are having an emergency, and gas service is not going to be affected in these areas. Aqua Ohio's contractor DB Bentley has installed approximately 1,255 feet of new 8-inch water main on Burridge Avenue and will begin the new residential water services this week. We're happy to say that the City of Mentor sanitary trunk sewer rehab project that lined aging sanitary sewer mains along various roadways within the city is now complete, and full soft cover restoration will take place during the month of August. I've asked the city engineer to reach out to Lake County Utilities to give us a map so that you can get a visual idea of exactly how many lines have been replaced, as well as not the trunk sewers, the main trunk sewers, where I know we've all had concern in the past. So we're appreciative of that investment by the county, and glad that that's finally complete. Lake County Department of Utilities Adams Court Sanitary Sewer Pump Station Improvement Project, along with its final restoration, is also finally complete. And then, council, finally, we have a few new businesses to announce. Craft Your Story at 7537 Mentor Avenue, Matrix Tattoo at 7253 Center Street, Harmony Cafe at 4683 Corduroy Road, and the UH Urgent Care at 6900 Center Street. So we thank them for their investment in the community, and we wish them great success going forward. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Flipiak. Clerk's correspondence.
Council is in receipt of the Mentor Municipal Court June of 2023 report, and also a new liquor permit for Ohio Springs Inc., DBA Sheets, 394 at 7777 Reynolds Road. That is all.
Thank you. That's not an earthquake. The band has started playing, just so you know that. Commission, Council, you're in receipt of the Community Arts Commission, June 1st, 2023, and July 6th, 2023. Board of Building and Zoning Appeals, June 13th, 2023. Municipal Planning Commission, June 15, 2023, and July 6, 2023. Council, any old business? Any new business? We do have persons before council, and first up, we have, if you come up, please give your name and address to the, to Julie. And first, we have William Gooding. And you have 4 minutes, William. Thank you.
Okay. My name is William Gooding, and my address is 4677 Brooksdale Road. Thank you for the opportunity to present to council. I'm here tonight with my immediate neighbors to present our concerns regarding the width of our segment of our street. We all live on the northernmost leg of Brooksdale Road, north of Lake Overlook. Over the past few years, major improvements have been made to the street in the Headlands in an area referred to as the William Murphy Park. These have included repairs to the sewers in the road, including replacing curbs, repairing driveway aprons once the road work was done. These improvements have made a big difference, and they were done without assessments. Our leg of Brooksdale Road was not included in any of these improvements. When we asked why not, we were told that our road had been in its current state for a long time, and we were not in the budget. No other explanation was offered. Picture 1, the picture that you see here, is just north of Lake Overlook, looking towards the lake. Notice the right side of the road is even. The left side has several cutouts that cause the width of the road to vary significantly. Also notice that there are no ditches on the right side. About half the left side is with and half without ditches. Second photograph, number 2. The curb-to-curb width of the other roads in the Headlands is 24 feet. The width of our section varies considerably. Some parts of the road are 14 feet in width, making it difficult for two vehicles to pass each other side by side. On more than one occasion, cars have slipped into the ditch in their attempt to navigate passing each other or turning onto Brooksdale Road from Lake Overlook. Several neighbors have expressed a concern regarding large emergency vehicles' ability to reach us in a hurry. In the winter, plow drivers tend to remove snow on the right side of the street, but they tend to shy away from the left side. This may be due to a concern for encountering ditches partially camouflaged with snow. As a result, persons on the left side of the street must shovel well past the ends of their driveways to reach the plowed section. 2 of these residents are homes to disabled military veterans. We're not asking for anything that's not been provided to other members of the Headlands. We're asking for 3 things. Number 1, the ditches be filled in. 2, the road width and entrance be widened. And number 3, driveway aprons be repaired as needed. All of these services were provided to virtually all members of our development without assessment. We are asking for the same consideration. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We look forward to your response.
Thank you, William.
Thanks, Bill.
We're done.
You're done.
Jim Romarsik is next. Jim, please give your name to the clerk, name and address,
Jim Romarsik,
in 4 minutes. Thanks. Hi, Jim.
6844 Bellflower Court. I'm the president of the condo association there, and we've been having some problems with the park there. There's been loud music. There's a bad element moving in over there, and there's no one policing that park. There's Cuyahoga County plates in the park. We've had road rage incidents. We've had, just this past week, we had a fire hydrant run over. We had mailboxes knocked down.
What park exactly?
It's
Edward Walsh.
Park.
Edward Walsh,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, I want to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and
That's what I thought for
at
records. So.
any given time, especially in the summer here, you have tennis courts there, two baseball diamonds, two basketball courts. You got flag football practice. You got a splash park. You got a pavilion. You got a walking path, a pond, and soccer practice. And some nights, all that's happening at once, and you only have 72 parking spaces in that whole park. So they're falling out onto the street. They're parking on both sides of the streets. Can't get an ambulance down. You can't get a fire truck down if something happens. So there's other members here that are going to speak, but the park gets overcrowded. And then we have the one day we had a fight in the street. You know, the guys couldn't get by. There's been the road rage damage I told you about. There was a lady walking a dog in a splash park with no leash, and we told her about it, and she said it was wasn't
Service?
a pet.
Service?
It wasn't service. Service got to wear a collar. Just a dog. She had given a bath in the park with my grandkids in there. You know, it was not good. There's illegal parking there. We approached the city guys that were there, cut the grass and stuff, and there were some trees overgrown blocking the parking, no parking signs coming in and out of the lot there, and we were told that it was part of our association, that were our trees, so we called Lasser, which is our landscaper, and he'd come and trim the trees back. But you still got people parking on both sides. It gets too crowded in there. So I don't know what you could do about that. And then basketball courts there. Ray's been there. He walks there. There's a bad element coming in there. There's been drinking, loud music, vulgar music, and you can hear it. You know, all those people along that park hears all that. The grandkids and then the kids are playing in the splash park is subject to this. It's just been getting out of hand. When I first moved in there, the park is beautiful. I mean, you guys do a nice job on your parks. I mean, the money you put into them and the way they look, they're phenomenal. I love that park. That was part of the reason I moved here. I had a spread in Chesterland, and I sold that to retire and move here. And now we're dealing with, your mom lives there, Matt, you know.
Yeah.
She's had stories there. I just don't know what we can do. This is our first step of trying to get you guys to take a look at it, investigate it, and see if you're going to use I mean, if you want to use the pavilion, you got to come and rent it. If you wanted to, I imagine your city baseball teams that play up there, the girls fast pitch softballs up there, that's a neat game to watch. But they have to probably get permits. But there's no permitting on a basketball court, and you were getting people. Every you walk through, there's Cuyahoga County plates. There's some Lake County plates. We don't know that they're members or they're men or that they live here or not. And my tax dollars are paying, your tax dollars are paying for that park to be clean, and it's a mess. Some nights in the summertime, you go down there, there's dirty diapers in the drive. You have residents cleaning up the street because there's broken bottles in the street, you know. But that's all I got. Just
Thanks,
bring
Jim.
it to your event.
I think that maybe the parking could be looked into. That's all I can comment on that.
Yeah.
If everything's going on at the same time, I'm sure the city and the administration can look at if every
'cause-
event is happening at the
and
same
I
time.
don't know,
Maybe there needs to be more parking.
Are there any other parks in the city that are actually in a residential area like that, where your parking would fall out onto the streets? Because you had parking on both sides of the streets, and there's signs on all our streets that say no parking on the fire hydrant side.
God, I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
But
too.
it was unsafe. You know?
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Appreciate it. Let me say, if there's somebody else who's on the same subject as that, and you're going to repeat what Jim has presented to us, if you could refrain from that, or if you have a different topic in that neighborhood, we'd appreciate it if you had a different topic, and if Jim covered everything, fine. I can talk about something different. Okay. Barb Jackson's next. Are you Barb? Hi, Barb.
Hi, Council.
Good
Hi,
timing.
everybody. Farmington Meadows. You know, Jim said he doesn't know what to do. I know what to do. You know, what we could do is some speed bumps.
Barb, let me have your address
Oh,
before you go.
6732 Farmingdale Lane,
Thank you.
Mentor, Ohio.
Thank you.
We could install some speed bumps. We've been having people just whiz by. We had that accident. And, you know, we have little kids, we have senior citizens, we have everybody walking there. And before somebody actually gets killed and loses an arm, a leg, plague their life, and we could have thoughts and prayers, we could actually do something. Put the speed bumps in. I'll be happy to help anybody do it. And if we have emergency money, let's do that. And let's do something proactive in that park to get it done. It's a wonderful park. I've lived there 37 years, and we are having more problems. And I think too, a surveillance camera in that parking lot would be really good. And we could put signs, surveillance here. We could go and get nothing fancy. We could go and get one of those ones that they use on the doors and stick it on one of the poles and have them there, and police could look at the apps. And because the park should really close at sunset, dusk. And there are people there, you could hear them playing basketball. Those basketball hoops, I feel bad for the young kids who really have a good time with them. But we get the older kids, and they have foul language. The music is really loud, and it reverberates through an entire community. The people next door or who live right there, because we have no fences, we're wide open, they can tell you the score. And I think that we need to do something about that. And I would like to have a gate put in, and that it comes up at 6 a.m. in the morning, goes down at 9 o'clock. And if you're in there, then they have to stay in there or call the police to get them out, and they should be fined. We have to have some consequences to things rather than doing nothing. And I do think that there are things that we can do to keep this park as nice as it is. Like I said, it's been a wonderful park for 37 years, and it's really getting kind of run down, and the garbage that people, the kind of people that are around here lately, I don't know whose their parents are, but, they don't pick up after themselves. You go up, and we end up picking up things. We end up cleaning up, and then, of course, the park people who do a really good job. But you go there, and then you have debris all over the place, and it just makes it bad for everybody else. That's probably all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Barb.
Except Julie, call the roll.
Thank you.
Amen.
Is this the same place? Terry Yurka? Terry, give your name and address to the clerk.
Terry Yurkic, 6797 Farmingdale Lane. I'm going to touch on a little bit the same subject. I'll get off, but we've had a number of break-ins in the park while people were there. They've broken into the cars. We've had really inappropriate comments made to some of our senior citizen women walking up the park, asking inappropriate things. We have people in the park at 1 or 3 in the morning, and my wife and I, we live on the corner of Bellflower and Farmingdale Lane, and we're constantly out sweeping up because as they fly out of the park, before they hit 306, they're tossing all their little bottles of alcohol, throwing it out, and where I live, right, across from the park. The music, foul language, and especially with our young kids there, it's just, and what she mentioned about, a surveillance camera in the park with notification, I think would help a lot. But the speed coming up Bellflower is just really gotten out of hand. They hit pretty much on everything, but really appreciate any help that the city can give us.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate your comments. We are on a different topic. Jack, I think it's Durst. Jack? Is Jack here? Okay. Please give your name and address to the clerk, and you have 4 minutes, Jack. Thanks.
My name is Jack Durst. I live in Menron Lake, 7580 Pinehurst Drive, and I'm here in support of the car show for the Labor Day weekend that at last minute we haven't been able to get a use permit for the park that we've been using for 8 years. I'm sure there's other people here who are going to give you a lot more information than I have, but I am just here as part of the support. I'm a disabled Vietnam veteran, and the benefits of this car show go to support Fisher House, which is a veteran organization. It's like the, where people can come and stay when their relatives, husbands, friends are in the VA hospital, and they can come there and supports them staying and meals and that type of thing. So we're here to find out why we can't get the permit to use the park and hope that we can get this changed. It's a last minute thing. Can't make other arrangements at this point, and we have anywhere from 600 to 700 people that bring their automobiles for this show. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. The same subject, we have Paul Morris. Paul, please give your name and address to the clerk.
My name is Paul Morris. I too am a citizen and a resident of Mentor and Lake, 7592 Pinehurst. I am here because I am the chair of Roar by the Shore, a car show that we put on at Mentor Beach Park since 2016, I believe. This would have been our 8th year. We have never had a problem at that park. We have always cleaned the park up immaculately when we're done. We make sure there is no damage to the park. As a matter of fact, last year when we were setting up, we found out somebody the night before we did our setup had run into the split rail fence that goes around the park right by the sign and left all kinds of damage. We called the police department right away in Mentor Lake and had a report taken. So back in May, I believe it was, I spoke to somebody at the Parks and Rec Committee or department, and they said they penciled us in. This is almost an annual thing for us to go through. We don't do anything, spend any money, or do any advertising until we have the permission from the city of Mentor to run this event. This event, since its inception, has been done to gather money for the Greater Cleveland Fisher Home for our veterans, as Mr. Durst said. And there is a gentleman here from the Fisher Home and from the Cuyahoga County Veteran Services to touch on that briefly. So this year, because the city of Mentor Lake required us to, for whatever reason, file a special event permit, it says that I have to get written permission from everybody's property that we don't own, which would be the city of Mentor and Aqua, Ohio, because we consume some of their property too, with their blessing. They actually are one of our sponsors of this event. When I tried to find out why, all of a sudden, first of all, I contacted, left messages at the Department of Recreation, got no response. So I sent, on August 3rd, I sent Mr. Kaminsky an email asking for 3 things: the written permission to use the park, possibility of using the restrooms in the park, because that costs us a lot of money to get extra porta potties down there for this event, and to also get be able to go down into the pavilion and take pictures of it. Well, his reply to me was 6 days later. He said, "Sorry about the delay, but I was gathering additional information regarding your request for usage of the Mentor Beach Park. The decision was made by the law department and the administration that we do not rent or grant permission for events to outside organizations unless they are sponsored by the City of Mentor Parks Recreation Department. With that being said, we cannot grant you permission to utilize the park for your show." Our shows would be always on the Saturday of Labor Day weekend. We did it that way so it's easy for people to remember. We have tons of spectators come through our park. Many of Mentor residents enjoy the park at that time. We have food vendors, craft vendors, the automobiles. And we found it funny because when we did some research, we found that that statement can't be totally true because Mentor is permitting the Humane Society to use your amphitheater on September 9th for a fundraiser. Well, if you don't permit outside organizations, how are they permitted? And can we do something to correct this? I've left messages for Mr. Filipiak to call me back. I've not heard back from him. I don't know the law director. I'd have contacted him. So I'm trying to find out why. Is there something we did wrong? Is there something we can do to correct this? I think I'll let you go.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for your continued support in the past.
Thanks for your work. On the same topic, we have Jason Morris. Jason, give your name and address to the clerk, please.
Yes, so my name is Jason Morris. I am also a resident of Mentor-on-the-Lake, 5845 Lake Road. I am the co-chair of Roar by the Shore, and as my father, the chairman of the event, mentioned, we've been doing this for the past 7 years successfully without issue. We've raised a lot of money for veterans by help of the Greater Cleveland Fisher House. We've assembled an excellent car show that attracts spectators from all over the area, as well as participant vehicles that come from anywhere from New York, Pennsylvania, as far south as Cincinnati, Ohio, and even Michigan. We've advertised by handing out flyers to numerous locations to help push this event and make it grow every year. Now we're at the 11th hour and we're facing this roadblock that we never fathomed being an issue. Our event's supposed to be September 2nd, and right now we're in limbo. We've had to freeze all of our promotions for this event. That's a huge impact to this. And if we are forced to cancel, we're questioning how do we inform everybody that's gotten a flyer for our event in all these remote locations don't show up. So at this point, we're in a very big bind. When we had the verbal permission to assemble our car show earlier this year, and now that we need the written permission, it seems to be a severe problem. And again, I would like something to try and resolve this matter so that way we can continue this event this year and get through this and possibly work on what it takes to make this continue going forward. This is becoming quite the tradition in Mentor-on-the-Lake and draws a lot of great attention. So looking for some help. Thank you,
Jason. The same topic, we have John Reese.
Hello, John Rice. Address,
Rice, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Address 1070 Cliffdale Avenue, Lakewood, Ohio. I am a board member for the Greater Cleveland Fisher House, the Director of Veteran Services for Cuyahoga County, and the Chair of the Northeast Ohio Veteran Community Task Force. I am here today in support of Roar on the Shore. Much to our surprise as board members of the Fisher House when we were notified by Paul that we would, that there was a dilemma with the site, and while I understand that individuals like yourselves have a lot of work to do, I can't encourage you enough to potentially see if there's an opportunity to come to some resolution here, even if it's for just this year while the group works through their issues for next year. The Greater Cleveland Fisher House, for those who don't know exactly what it is, and we're not supposed to say this in public, but similar to the Ronald McDonald House, but for veteran families traveling in to stay with someplace comfortable while the veteran is undergoing care, treatment, or surgery. Over the last 3 years since we have opened, and they have been, we're a great fundraiser for helping us for both the capital campaign to open and to fund ongoing operations. The Fisher House has served over 3,900 families, saving over $1.2 million in hotel costs. In addition to that, we provide meals for the family members staying in the house on a day-to-day basis, other entertainment in the local community so that families don't feel lost and alone when they're here to support a veteran who is undergoing difficult times. So we encourage leadership and mentor to do what they can to see if they can pull this off. Since it's 11th hour, it will be real hard to turn around and make another thing happen. We would greatly appreciate it, any work you can do to make that a reality. Thank you.
Thanks, John. We have Ted Maxey and Wayne want to come up together, please.
I'm going to start when I get there.
You already used 2 minutes up.
Thank you very much, Council. I'm at 6186 Parkwood Road, Mentor, Ohio, 44060. And I'm here on behalf of this car show. I am with the AMVETS. I am the commander of the AMVETS Post 109 down on Mentor-on-the-Lake. It's for our veterans. This is for our veterans. They are doing this for Fisher House. And we need to support our veterans. I support him all I can. This is my second vice. He works with the veterans, helping veterans do what they can for each other. And believe me, we are here to support them. Please don't stop this car show. Let's go ahead and move forward. And if something has to be worked out in the future, work it out. But right now, our Fisher House, we built that. Our veterans built that on donations and holding fundraisers. And this is a fundraiser that helps support it. So please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
My name is Wayne Moynihan. My address is 8126 Plains Road, Mentor, Ohio. And as a former county veteran service officer for 6 years in Stark County, Ohio, I have seen firsthand the benefits of what Fisher House does for the veterans and their families when these veterans are at their worst. They're admitted to a medical facility for a service-connected disability, for service for our country. And their families are going to have to commute sometimes hours to go see them. This Fisher House provides a service that is just, you can't put a price tag on it. And this board, this committee has always supported their veterans. I've seen the work that you folks have done for veterans in Mentor. There is no reason that we can't find a way to make this work. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wayne. We have a different topic here. Teresa Simon. Please give your name and address to the clerk. You have 4 minutes. Thanks, Teresa.
My name is Teresa Simon. I live at 6 Meadowlawn Drive, Mentor, Ohio. Thank you. First, I would like to thank, and bear with me, I would like to thank you, Mr. Blake, my ward councilman, for the many years of vigilant support of the Meadowlawn community and in his efforts to see a safer environment for all Meadowlawn residents. I would also like to thank the City of Mentor police officers who have responded to numerous calls to our Meadowlawn community over the last 3 years. Mentor officers have always responded professionally, considerately to calls and assistance in Meadowlawn, and I do believe all the officers who have been called to address and take reports to this ongoing saga that has plagued the residents of Meadowlawn over the past 3 years have performed to the best of their abilities, given the nature of the situation and the limitations placed upon them. I have provided council with the most recent examples of anonymous newsletters that some can reasonably infer are acts of domestic terrorism perpetrated not only against individual residents living in Meadowlawn, but also disseminated to hundreds of Meadowlawn residents to their dismay. The newsletters, council, I hope you take very seriously. I highlighted a few things. They target women, mostly elderly, grandmothers and mothers. The newsletters include ways to find them and have caused not only distress to those particular individuals, but to the hundreds of households that received the letters. The whole community has had this perpetrated on them. In June, there were 4 victims. July's issue added a few more and included fantasies of violence against one particular elderly resident who has a long history of being tormented by an individual. And of course, the July issue also has in it the promise of the next issue with more victims to be perpetrated against. Meadowlawn has had a 3-year history of anonymous letters, vengeful acts against board members and their employers. It's well documented. There's persons of interest. I will not say anyone's name, whether they're a victim or a person of interest. I think everybody knows there's a person of interest in this. It's escalating, and there's enough information out there that's been provided diligently to not only the men or the police department, but to the law director, that maybe everything isn't a civil matter. Maybe protection orders are not to be interpreted but obeyed. I do not want to hold trial. I think if it was happening to your street, your neighbors, you would want to see an end to it before somebody is bodily harmed or, God forbid, is mortified. How does a 70-year-old woman deal with what garbage is in those letters? Does someone have to end themselves or be harmed? Or, God forbid, our community is peppered. The instigating in these letters is nothing new, but it's hitting mass numbers. And it takes one individual, as demented as the individual that wrote this, to cause harm to one of these individuals named. Because obviously, their unit number and building number are provided if somebody with that inclination can do it. I've heard a lot of excuses. I don't know what can be done. I'm a resident for 10 years. I've documented things for 3 years. I've seen every police report, county report, jailhouse text, jailhouse call. I've seen everyone's protection orders, and
Teresa,
reading
you
is
got 30 seconds. Thank you, honey.
Reading is a wonderful thing. Reading Ohio statutes on the enforcement of orders is a wonderful thing. I would like to see what can be done versus being told what can't be done. And if all I hear is what can't be done, I'm really wondering about the effectiveness of the city to back its residents, protect its residents, when there's obviously somebody with mental vendettas, and the inability to control themselves for years. That's all I need to say, and thank you for your time. I hope you all consider what I said seriously, because I will be back.
Thank you, Teresa.
Mr. President, in light of the comments about the car show, do you think it might be appropriate for the city manager to comment, or?
Mr. Flipiak, you ready to comment on that?
I can.
Thank you, sir.
I think many on council have have asked about this, and we've offered a response.
To interrupt you real quick. Sure. We love our veterans. We will do anything for our veterans. This is heartbreaking to hear this stuff. And I'm going to say, hopefully there's a conclusion of something we could possibly do. We are veteran fans, this whole council, and that was hard stuff to listen to. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Flipiak.
Sure. So essentially, when the city, not all city facilities are open for rental or use by parties. The city does have a longstanding history of working cooperatively with our adjacent communities. We have shared use agreements in place with multiple communities in Lake County, the school district, and this particular event at one point was a Men Are on the Lake sponsored event. We allowed the park to be used for that purpose. It had been approved for several years afterward, and quite frankly, we were under the mistaken impression that the request was coming from the city of Men Are on the Lake. The city does not pick and choose who we will or will not accommodate for private rentals. Anyone can rent the public building that's available at our park in Men Are on the Lake. They can rent any of the facilities, whether they're residents or non-residents, that are available.
We've been told that's don't interrupt. Just, yeah, please. Thank you. Cool. Thank you.
So this is really just a matter of our Parks and Recreation Department following existing policy. There was not approval in place prior, as was suggested earlier, and I think the first request came as I think Mr. Morris had mentioned in August, requesting approval for that. It's really just as simple as that. As council is aware, we do not rent out our parks in their entirety for private parties. there was a mention about the Humane Society. We do accommodate programs that we co-sponsor. The Humane Society event is a co-sponsored event that the city will participate in, the city will benefit from as part of the revenue stream that's associated with that, and it's an event that we want to be able to put on for our residents. I took the additional step of contacting the mayor of Mentor-on-the-Lake just yesterday, Mayor Eva, and to confirm that this was not a Mentor-on-the-Lake city request, which she confirmed that it was not, and suggested that if the city of Mentor-on-the-Lake would choose to be a sponsor for this, or if they had other facilities that they could accommodate, that would certainly be a good resolution to it. So it really is just as simple as that. You know, we don't pick and choose who we want, as the law director would probably tell you, and this is in line with our policy. We can't say yes to one private entity and then say no to another. And as everyone in this room can envision, you know, there are certain groups that we would not want to say yes to, but where our facilities are available for rent, they're available for rent for anyone who goes through the proper channels to do so.
Mr. Flipiak, did the mayor give you any inclination of why the Mentor-on-the-Lake wasn't sponsoring this event anymore? Or are you saying it was under the impression that we sponsored the event, or they sponsored the event? Is that it was?
What I'm saying is we were under the impression
Okay.
for the last several years that this event was a continuation of the Mentor-on-the-Lake's program.
Okay.
And so we were granting permission essentially to Mentor-on-the-Lake to perform this.
And it's been going on for how many years?
We were under a false impression of that.
Mhm.
It's really, frankly, that simple.
And it's been going on for how many years?
Well, the event goes back decades.
Yeah, yeah. It just seems like you know, there didn't seem to be any kind of problem in the past, and it just went on. And I understand the misinterpretation of a sponsored event, but hopefully we can work a little harder tomorrow to maybe call and try to work this out to get this thing back on track. I'm sure everybody on council feels the same way. I mean, it's a hard situation. Do you have anything in your head at this point where you think that we could carry this event on? Would we have to sponsor this event? Would that work? And we could look into the details of that? I don't know where council's at with this, if you're
I
agree
agree
Oh,
with that.
Yeah.
Mr.
Krieger, you want to say
I don't
something?
know what it takes to be a sponsor, but
Right.
if the city of Mentor can be a sponsor, I don't know what that takes, but I don't see any reason.
Ken, would
why
you
we
know any
wouldn't.
details on that kind of thing, if we were a sponsor of this event? Mr.
We
Zeman?
typically don't sponsor events outside of our jurisdiction.
I got you. I got you.
But I would, I don't know, I guess we would have to consult with the law department on that before we proceeded.
Mr. Zeman, any comments on that, or what we can do to?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Mr. Filipiak obviously does things by the...
And if I could just insert, we've never been asked to participate.
Okay,
So-
okay. I got you.
Yeah, I think it's a little ad hoc to be doing everything at this late time. I think a number of things. Mr. Filipiak is appropriately doing things by the book.
Yeah.
Per charter, he's charged with management of city's facilities and public grounds. And they have to be managed in accordance with duly promulgated policies, because we have to treat everyone similarly situated equally. And this group's cause, I think everyone would recognize, is fantastic. Another group comes along and says, well, again, we want to also take over this park on a given day, and perhaps, you know, what they're doing could be potentially problematic to the neighborhood in terms of noise or what have you, things of that nature. I was struck, I think, a little bit when there was mention of 600 to 700 persons coming. I don't know if that was specifically cars or the number of total people. And then I think Mr. Morris had mentioned you're making the event grow every year. Again, this is a city park, and when it's city-sponsored, there's an ability to manage it, to control it, and to ensure that it's going to be used appropriately. But how then is Mr. Filipiak, who's charged with management of this, to know, unless there's prior communication and a lot of prior effort put into it, that how it's going to be used could be safe, can accommodate the number of persons? There was reference made to Aqua's property also accommodating this. Generally, when you've got an event of this size, you're working with the community in which you're located, in this case, the city of Mentor-on-the-Lake. You're asking a lot on short notice. Now, granted, this event's been happening for a number of years, but as Mr. Filipiak indicated, the City of Mentor's administration was under the impression that this was primarily a Mentor-on-the-Lake event. So we have another political subdivision taking care and custody and ultimately control over this via its safety services, via its oversight, which is more direct, frankly, than what the City of Mentor is doing, since it's located outside of our municipal boundaries. So I don't know that tonight you can come up with a perfect solution to this that will allow it to happen on such short notice, but any solutions to any management of public facilities have to first happen according to duly promulgated policies that are in place, not only to make sure that the facilities are used in the manner in which they're kept and maintained, but also can accommodate anything that might go wrong. And as Mr. Filipiak indicated, there is no permit you can pull to take over an entire public park. You can rent the building, but even rental of that building would not allow you to have exclusive use of all the grounds and parking facilities, because it's still open to members of the public who have every right to go there and walk their dogs or enjoy the sight of the lake. So I think as we sit here tonight, Mr. Filipiak's hands are tied, and appropriately so, frankly, in my judgment, because what you're asking for requires a lot of studied attention and what's in the best interests of for that facility, the neighborhood as well as all members of the public who may want to enjoy it. So it's a difficult situation, certainly, and I think everyone recognizes that. But I don't think tonight, or even tomorrow perhaps, any real solution can be crafted. That's asking an awful lot, frankly.
Mr. President.
Mr. Martin.
Mr. Zeman, Mr. Filipiak, the one thing you keep on coming back is it used to be a Mentor-on-the-Lake sponsored event.
Right.
So if it's a Mentor-on-the-Lake sponsored event from now on in the future, basically we don't have any problems. You call up Judge Crane, use their property. We call up Bill Bauer, see if we could use Aqua Ohio's property. Call up Dave Eva, we get Mr. Morris involved, myself involved, whoever it takes, in order to bring this project back. 'Cause we all agree that it's a great event. I've been there before in the past. We all agree with where the funds go to, but it's just how do we get back to this point? So if we go back to it being a Mentor-on-the-Lake sponsored event, which of course we can't speak for Mentor-on-the-Lake City Council, Mentor-on-the-Lake Mayor and everybody, Laurel Audit Director, police, fire, whatever, but that's a simple answer.
Mr. President? Yeah.
Mr. Krieger.
Along the same line, I'm a little confused because we've all been to functions down at Mentor Beach Park. I mean, political functions, 100-year-old birthday parties, and the entire park is used.
It is.
I mean, whether it's a clam bake or whatever, and I don't know how we do that and then say we can't do this. In the military, we call it a snafu. But the thing,
No,
Well, you could have been people playing.
Yeah, Councilman, I can answer that.
is the difference is if they have to rent the building is,
They're not renting the entirety of the park. They're not
when
securing.
you rent that building down there, you're basically renting the entire park because all the functions I've been to, that park is full of cars and overflow onto Lakeshore Boulevard.
Well, sure, but they're not exclusive users of it, is the point, and I think Mr. Zima was trying to make that point. If they utilize the grounds, anyone else could utilize those grounds, regardless of what's happening inside that building. The only permits that we issue, or rentals, I should say, that we issue, are for the use of the building itself, and those are all essentially paid, whether it's a birthday party or a political function. We don't distinguish between what type of event can take place there.
Well, the
but
bottom
it's
line,
the building that is rented.
rather than belabor it, I think kind of the council's viewpoint on this, as you can see from conversation, is we'd like to see this worked out.
Also, Mr. Filipiak, if they rented the building and they brought their cars in and showed their cars, they're parking their cars and they rented the building. If they need help renting the building, I'll look into what I can do to help to rent the building. Does that give them permission to fill the lot with the cars? I mean, I'm trying to figure out a way we could, trying to figure out a way to help the veterans, you know? I mean, if we rent the building, if they rent the building, I guess they'll go to the law director. If they rent the building, can they come in with their classic cars and park their cars? They rented the building.
Well, again, there's no, if it's licensed vehicle, you can park your licensed vehicle on there if you're renting the building. The city can't, though, guarantee that there's going to be adequate parking. The city can't guarantee, other aspects of the event. There was mention, I think, made of porta potties, things of that nature, which would be brought in.
Well,
again,
if they rented the building, they have
so
their bathrooms. They rented the
that-
building.
Again, so we have to take a look at all aspects of the event. I was really struck by the number. I don't know if 600 to 700 meant the number of persons arriving there, but if it's 600 to 700 cars, again, are they parking on the grass? There's a lot of obviously mechanics to work out with that and what might be appropriate. But generally, if you're renting the actual building, you still have to abide by the park rules.
I guess I'll ask, I'm going to ask Wayne, I guess. Do you park on the grass? Do you fill the lawn with the soccer field with cars?
Sure.
All right. So it's been going on for decades. You never rented the building. If you rented the building, I guess Mr. Flipiak mentioned earlier today to me that there may be events scheduled. Has there ever been a soccer event scheduled or any kind of thing like that at the same time? Maybe rent the building. And then you have bathrooms. So now you have bathrooms, you rented the building, and you park your cars for your event. I don't know if, I'm not a lawyer. So does that have to be, and that doesn't have to be city or city-sponsored, correct? Because they rented the building on their own. It would not even have to be sponsored by a city. I understand everybody's in a frazzle, but we're just trying to figure out a way to get this thing together, you know? I'm going to let you talk. Come on up. You got to come up and then give us your name one more time and then, yeah, I'll give you a couple minutes. We're not supposed to let you up, but I'm going to let you talk. Give me your name and address again, please.
My name is Paul Morris. I'm the chairman of the Roar by the Shore.
Thank you.
Address is 7592 Pinehurst Drive, Mentor on the Lake. We have offered to rent that building because that building is not available for rent to the public according to your website. So we're trying to do the best we can from our position, first of all. Second of all, I never have presented this as a city event. I am a Ward 2 councilman in Mentor on the Lake, and I didn't want to mention that, and I did mention it when I talked to Parks and Rec, that just as a convenience sake. We never said it was a Mentor Lake. As a matter of fact, we said it was an individual, a private thing going on. So I appreciate everything council's doing to try to resolve this, because as my son stated, this is 12th hour. For us to try to cancel this is going to be a nightmare. Matter of fact, some people have asked us, if we just show up, what can they do to us? I don't know. I won't be there unless we get approval from Mentor to do this. So I appreciate all of council's efforts and concerns to try to get this done.
Mr. President?
Thank you. Mr. Kirschner.
Question for Mr. Morris?
Yes, sir.
You're on city council,
Yes, sir.
so you should be privy to why the city of Mentor on the Lake decided not to sponsor this anymore or be a partake in this event. It's seeing how they've been doing it for years, correct?
They did it under John Rogers when he was our mayor, and then they stopped because they ran out of funds. Yeah, as everybody knows, city taxes are tight, and it did in Mentor on the Lake as well. It still is, and nobody wanted to bring it back again. I asked our Parks and Rec before I got on council, how about bringing the car show back? You don't have to spend tax dollars to do it. They didn't want to do it, so when I got elected to council, I decided to try it again. I was advised council cannot run a car show. Okay, I understand that. So we formed our own little committee of a couple councilmen and myself, and we got it started. And it has been growing exponentially. I can't even begin to tell you what this year would possibly look like. but because we got stopped cold in our tracks, it's like watching a train hit a brick wall. We're done. But we've got people that we can contact and some we can't contact to say, this show's over this year. Let us try to figure out what happens next year. It is a very, very popular show. When we mentioned 600 to 700, the cars are actually probably anywhere between we've had as high as 700 cars alone in that place. We take the time to cordon off any possible trip hazards, any hazards to cars or pedestrians, and people come through and walk their dogs. They have a good time. We close off Twilight with Mary Eva's permission to put our food vendors there. There's a DJ that plays the entire time. Craft vendors, Chinese.
I guess I'm going to interrupt you, but what's your law director's opinion on this?
We have never been approached him. We're a totally separate entity.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
sir. Thanks for letting me talk again.
Yes, sir.
All right, we gotta go.
Mr. President, I would move to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121-22G4 to review negotiations and bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation and other terms and conditions of their employment. And second motion would be to adjourn into a second executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G3 to conference with legal counsel concerning 1, pending confidential employment litigation, and 2, pending litigation before the Board of Tax Appeals.
Julie, please call the roll.
I need a second.
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes. Just at the outset.
Ray, go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, President, I'd move that we go back into regular council session.
Second.
Before we go forward, though, you got to call the roll, I'm sorry.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
Yes.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
It occurred to me that the city manager just redid his whole office, paint, new office material. Our office hasn't been paid in 15 years.
Yeah.
And you got new flooring in there. Do we need a motion to have that done? And have the city manager, the chief building director, well, that's what he is.
Well, my opinion on that is, we just basically got that air cleaned up, and there was air problems, and we moved all the vents around, and then we put flooring in, and that had glue on it. And then we did, all kind of lighting and vent moving and circulation of air, and, I think that things have been pretty good right now with the air quality in there. We had the air tested. I really wouldn't want to take the chance to paint the room and put some kind of fumes or some kind of paint fume in that room right now. I think, and that's up to you guys. If you want to put a motion on the floor to paint the office, I don't agree with that.
Well, that's my motion.
I think it's Jackie.
I'll second that.
We had discussed this in the work session?
For painting
Painting
walls?
A room?
Did you give him permission to paint his office?
Ray, I'll second your motion.
He's a city manager.
Yeah, but he works for us, just like Julie does.
All right, never gonna
Call the
learn.
roll.
All right, I got another motion after this.
Please call the roll.
You're not gonna like it.
Mr. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Krieger?
Yes.
Mr. Marne?
No.
Mr. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
No.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
What's the count?
It
Go ahead.
passes
Okay.
5-2.
It passes. Paint the room.
Move to adjourn.
No,
Well, go ahead.
okay. Well, since we're discussing this, I think they'll have a work session, Max. I think that'd be a better place.
All right, let's
About
have a
legal
work session.
fees and who's gonna be paying them, what it's gonna cost, and where we're at in our current budget. Because I guarantee you we're over.
Fair enough. Move to adjourn.
Second.
That's professional way of doing it.
I'm all for a